Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And Shalom to all the sincere believers, which includes the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. Now, this is going to be a quick lesson just based on this article. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts, and the Lord's will, you're edified. It says U.S. Embassy in Iraq hit by drone strikes as UAE reopens airspace after missile threats from Iran. It says drones and rockets have been launched at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq's capital, Baghdad, in what's been described as the most intense assault since attacks started. The United Arab Emirates has reportedly reopened its airspace after closing it due to missile and drone threats from Iran. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not happy with the UK after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said it would not be drawn into a wider war over Iran. Trump repeats his calls for other nations, particularly NATO allies, to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, and says he has been surprised more world leaders were not eager to be involved in the key oil shipping route. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says this war is not a matter for NATO, while NATO says allies have already stepped up to provide additional security in the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, leaders of the UK, Canada, France, Germany, and Italy issued a joint statement saying a significant Israeli ground offensive in Lebanon would have devastating humanitarian consequences. Earlier, the Israeli military said it had begun a wide-scale wave of strikes in the cities of Tehran, Shiraz, and Tabriz, with BBC Verify seeing videos of damage in Iran's capital. Yeah, so we are without a doubt in a time of war. And there's a lot of division happening as well, because these other nations don't want to get involved. You know, America's allies really don't want to get involved because they know that if they get involved, they're going to get attacked. They're going to get hit with bombs and missiles. You know, they know that the smart thing to do is to just let the U.S. and Israel handle this war that they started. You know? So, like it says, meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not happy with the UK after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said it would not be drawn into a wider war over Iran. Nobody wants to get caught up in this. This is not their fight. The U.S. and Israel should never have bombed Iran. If they didn't do that, none of this would be happening. But they did what they did. They made an illegal move on Iran, and now all hell is breaking loose over there, and they're losing. The U.S. and Israel are losing this war. That's why they're asking for help. Because this war is not going the way that they thought it would. And to be honest, they didn't put very much thought into it. Luke 12:51 Suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth? I tell you nay, but rather division. And that's what's happening. There's division amongst America and its allies. Because the UK doesn't really want to get involved, and none of these other nations want to get involved either. Because they know that that will make them and their citizens targets, and they don't want to become a target. They didn't bomb Iran. They don't have any beef with Iran. So why would they get involved? And Trump is pissed off because he thinks that because he's stupid enough to send in the US military to fight in this war on behalf of Israel, he thinks that the other nations' leaders are stupid enough to do the same. But they're putting up a lot more resistance than he expected them to. Same with Iran. You see, the problem with Edomites, so-called white people, the so-called white man in particular, is that he has so much pride and arrogance that he doesn't realize that all of that is going to lead to his destruction. Like it says in Proverbs 16 and 18, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. All of Trump's pride, it's backfiring on him. You know, all this bragging about how great the U.S. military is and how advanced the U.S. military is and how, you know, the U.S. military is the best in the world. All of this bragging, and look at what's happening. For lack of a better term, the U.S. and Israel are getting their ass handed to them out there. That's not how they thought it was going to go. They were not expecting Iran to put up as much of a fight as they have been. Things are going completely in the opposite direction. But of course, because these Edomites have so much pride and they can never admit when they're wrong, instead of them saying, hey, you know, we should have never done this, you know, we should just back out, you know, just back off, leave Iran alone. Instead of doing that, Trump and his administration, they'll get on TV and they'll lie to the American people and say, oh yeah, we've decimated all of Iran's leadership. You know, we're decimating their military and all of this. When in reality, that's not what's happening. I'm not saying that Iran is not taking some hits, because of course in war everybody gets hit. But Iran is actually doing more damage to these Israeli forces and these US forces than what mainstream media is telling the people. Because if they don't lie to the people, then the few people who still believe that America's just the best ever and are the people who still are cheering on this war, those people are gonna back away. And then nobody's gonna be supporting Trump. So they have to lie, because Trump understands that there are dumb enough people in this country, or people who are dumb enough, I should say, who are gonna believe everything that he tells them. No matter how much he lies to them, no matter how much what they're seeing is opposite to what he's saying, him and his wicked administration, no matter how much these people deep down know that they're being lied to, Trump knows that they're going to follow him. And a lot more U.S. soldiers are going to die, especially if the U.S. sends in ground troops. They're going to get slaughtered if they do that. And all of that blood, all of that death is going to be on Trump's hands. And Netanyahu's as well. But mostly Trump. Because this was a war originally. This was a beef, I should say, originally between Israel and Iran. The U.S. had nothing to do with it. Yes, Iran, chants death to America. But they don't have the means to bring death to America. So really, Iran was never a threat. But Iran is a threat now to all the U.S. servicemen and women who are over there fighting against them on behalf of Israel. And this is just it's gonna get worse. This war between Israel, the U.S., and Iran is gonna get worse. There is no slowing this down. Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And we are definitely in a time of war. That's why the peace talks that were originally being had between the U.S., Israel, and Iran went out the window. It failed. And Israel and the U.S. attacked Iran. Because we're not in a time of peace. We're in a time of war. So any peace talks that take place, they're always going to fail. Because the Lord wants war. Exodus 15:3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. Yeah, so the Heavenly Father is a man of war. And that's why this war out there in the quote-unquote Middle East is happening. Like, you can say that Israel and the U.S. started it, which they did, but the Lord is the one who put the spirit on Netanyahu and Trump to give the green light for those missiles to get launched that started this whole thing. So the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, gets all the credit. And the Heavenly Father is going to keep this war going. And it's going to continue to escalate. And more people are going to die. And it's going to be more destruction and more chaos. And the global effect that this war is going to have is going to be catastrophic. That is the time and season that we have entered into. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here and close it. I'm going to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakudash, the Wadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere believers, which once again includes all the Israelites of the hopeful elect who are scattered amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan, Ratazah. Until next time, shalom.